normal cell number increase is a hyperplasia. Cell number increase is a hyperplasia. Cell size increase is a hypertrophy. Trophy means it's a nutrient. So hypertrophy means maybe the cell shrinking, size is getting smaller. And neoplasia is forming new things, not only regular cell increase. Neoplasia usually means it's a cancerous exploding. Okay. What is the common things of these three ways? They are electromagnetic waves. It's just a different the wavelengths. And last week we had the radiation therapy. There's alpha ray, beta ray, gamma ray. Those are kind of representative three rays the radioactivity generate. So radioactivity are the atoms when they decompose. Some of those mass is reduced and generate a lot of energy. Those energies are significantly different forms. Gamma ray is a high energy electromagnetic wave. Gamma ray is shorter than X-ray. So those are gamma ray. Cosmic ray, which is much shorter and higher energy, coming from far, far from the somewhere in galaxy. Recently they claimed that something explainable, the high energy radiation was detected, which is physically impossible, the high energy. Anyway, those are electromagnetic waves. X-ray is a little shorter, and even shorter we have now UV, visible light, IR, radio wave, microwave. Those are all electromagnetic waves. What is beta ray? That's electrons, and high energy electrons, or cathodic ray, when the Thomson experiment, the hitting or the applying high voltage to the atom, some material is departed from the atom and flow, so-called the cathodic ray, that is electron beam, with high electron beams. And alpha ray, what is alpha ray? Rutherford alpha particle experiment is the nucleus of helium. It's much heavier. 2 neutrons, 2 positrons. Okay, so there may be many more rays that may be generated from radioactive compounds, but these three are representative. Detected first, that's why they gave the names alpha ray, beta ray, gamma ray, but all of three are different. Only gamma ray is a high energy electromagnetic wave. Beta ray is a high energy electron. Alpha ray is actually nucleus of some atom. And atomic weight is 4. So light atom was still much heavier than electrons. Electron and one positron, one proton, the mass difference is almost 1,000 times. Means alpha ray is 4,000 times heavier than beta ray. I didn't explain fully. Now, second question. What is this? Okay, alpha ray, beta ray, gamma ray. Between these two, gamma ray has a higher energy, so no question. Now, gamma ray also has a very high energy. It can kill if it's a very high intensity radiation, but beta ray is more toxic than gamma ray. It cannot travel longer, so beta ray can go maybe this much, but if it hits the cells, then it can kill better. Alpha particle, alpha ray is even toxic, they say one alpha particle can kill 100 cells. Can you imagine? One cell is like a 10 kilometer size or 10 city size. One alpha ray is like small ball, even smaller than any atom, that can kill 100 cells. That's amazing toxicity. But they cannot travel too many, just around that particle. We can just bombard and kill cells. So out of the three the radio waves, alpha ray is usually being used for therapy. If you deliver that alpha ray generating radioactive compounds to the target site, then it generates alpha ray, kill nearby cells. Then targeting is very important. The material should be delivered to the cancer cell. If not, it can kill every cell. Beta ray in between. Low energy beta ray can be used for imaging. A high energy beta ray can kill. So it's kind of being used in both. Gamma ray, even though it's a high energy, better penetration than X-ray. X-ray, if you irradiate it here, cannot penetrate the bone. Such as you can see the bone picture by X-ray. A gamma ray even can penetrate bones. So it can go anywhere, but usually we don't use very high energy because it can penetrate everything. Low energy of gamma ray usually being used for imaging. Okay. So I didn't have a chance to explain this last week, so I wrote this up. Okay, first generation cancer therapy was a chemotherapy, toxicity, attacking fast growing any cells. Their target would be either DNA itself, or DNA synthesis, or microtubule attackers. Okay. Those are just any cells which is dividing, they can get attacked. That's a first generation chemotherapy. The topic of this week and today is a targeted attack. This is one example. Kinase inhibitor. Not totally killing the whole cell, attacking the whole cell itself. Is some secondary point it attacks. Okay. Kinase inhibitor is a typical example of second generation of cancer Okay, so in flow cytometry, showing that kind of image was a DNA dye, right? They are measuring the DNA content, not RNA dye, and not antibody. Now, whether the question is that this is a non-dividing cell or actively dividing cell. That example I showed you, those are things like control populations, something like this. This one looks like this population is smaller, but still this is a very actively growing cells. If it's not growing cell, it should be. They don't make the DNA, they don't divide. This is non-dividing cell populations. Still, this image is also showing that this is actively dividing. Still, that's like a 20%, 30% population you can see. Okay. Okay. Okay, so that image showing arrest here, G2M arrest, that's most likely inhibiting the mitosis itself. Microtubule attacker may show that event. transfer across the plasma membrane. Okay? Most of those first the signaling molecule, first messengers, they are not well penetrating the cell membrane. That's why when we say signal transduction, mainly is talking about passing cell membrane. So by the way, Taxol shows the rest here. And if it's a topoisomerase inhibitor, DNA synthesis inhibitor, then we will see some intermediate state of S phase here. Okay, inostrophosphate, triphosphate is a second messenger. Okay, it is considered as a third messenger. If you are not sure about it, then we can talk about the last question. Okay. If the cells become cancerous, they behave strangely. They collect a lot of materials, like glucose, and also amino acids too, but selected some of them. And then they do not use them for energy production. Energy production to make ATP. To do that, they need to fully oxidatively break it up and aerobic digestion or respiration. So when they say respiration is taking the air is respiration, right? That means react with the oxygen. Okay? So cellular respiration means by giving oxygen to the molecule, they generate ATP. That's respiration. Okay? Using oxygen, burn the fuel and then generate ATP. That's the meaning of the cellular respiration. So that kind of activity is reduced. Instead of generating energy, collect more material, and in the middle of that glycolysis, pyruvate and lactate, they accumulate lactate as the active source, and utilize that to make more body and generate more DNAs. They use those materials to make more cell body rather than maintaining and managing the cell regular metastasis. That kind of a strange metabolism of the cell is described by this person, Warburg. And Warburg effect means changing the metabolism in cancer. If that is unique, then maybe that could be target of the therapy. Their metabolism is uniquely different from normal cells. Maybe that can be target to change. So that is the idea of Warburg effect. Okay. 지금은 돈도 받은 적 있지? 없나? 돈도 받은 적 있지? 오늘 안 줘도 되지? 줘야 돼? 두 개 받았네. 두 개 주네. 한 번 잡았네. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the further. I gave you some video material already you studied more than half of this material. Now, to recap, I invited Dale to present the key idea of this target system. Please welcome Dale.
Hello, my name is Dale from Department of Chemical Engineering, and today I'm going to talk about the targeted cancer therapy. After I'll talk about introduction, and then I'll explain about the difference between chemotherapy, and then I'll explain about the types of targeted cancer therapy and examples of the target. And I'll end my presentation by explaining about the side effect of targeted cancer therapy. The targeted cancer therapy is the second generation of anti-cancer drug, and the first generation of anti-cancer drug is the chemotherapy, as we learned from the last lecture, and the third generation of anti-cancer drug is the immunotherapy. The chemotherapy, as we learned from the last lecture, it directly attacks the cancer cells that divide faster than normal cells. But it does not distinguish the normal cells and the cancer cells, so it just attacks the whole on the cells, every cells that divide rapidly. So it can also attack the healthy cells, not the cancer cells that divide quickly, like hair or bone marrow or epithelial cells. So it can also attack the normal cells, so it has a lot of side effects, like hair loss, thymo, or anemia, nausea, or the mood changes, weight changes, a very lot of side effects of chemotherapy. And it also has a side effect that it is impossible to cure the cancer, which has a lot of metastasis, the final stage of the cancer. We cannot cure the cancer of the final stage. However, we can overcome this side effect by the targeted cancer therapy. Targeted cancer therapy attacks only certain markers that only cancer cells have, and it attacks only cancer cells by blocking specific target and signaling pathways. The targeted cancer therapy, first we take some part of the tumor from the patient and we analyze the genetic trait for patient's cancer. And then we need to find target that we need to find target, and the target should be expressed only in cancer cells, not the critical organs, and it should play an important role in development or growth for the cancer cells. And we can find the target along the pathway, the signal transduction pathway, angiogenesis pathway, matrix pathway, and apoptosis pathway. We can divide the targeted cancer therapy into two types. The first type of targeted cancer therapy is monoclonal antibody. The monoclonal antibody is one of the antibodies that we learned from the last lecture. It just blocks the receptor or neutralizing the ligand, where it also can deliver the toxic substance directly to the cancer cells. And it is one of the proteins, so it could be denaturated during the digestion process. So it should be injected by syringe or injection, and the MAB, which means monoclonal antibody, is in the end of the word, the name of the drug, monoclonal antibody. And the other type of the targeted cancer therapy is small molecular drugs, which means kinase inhibitor. As we learned from the lecture, the protein activated by phosphate, and the kinase catalyze the reaction that supplies the phosphate to the protein, and kinase is abnormally activated in cancer cells. So we could cure the cancer by inhibiting this kinase for the cancer cells, and it could be taken orally, and the NIB is in the end of the name of these drugs. There is very many targets for the cure cancer, and the very many pathways for the target, and very many methods to cure cancer. However, I'm gonna explain about the three examples of the different targets and different pathways. The first target is EGFR, and I'm gonna explain the EGFR inhibitors. So EGFR means epidermal growth factor receptor for the epithelial cells. 상피세포 성장입니다. It is overexpressed in various cancer, and if we use the EGFR inhibitor, it could be binds to EGFR and prevents interaction with another proteins. And these are the name of the drugs that target the EGFR and affected by the EGFR inhibitor. And the other example is angiogenesis inhibitors. the tumors need a lot of oxygen and nutrition to develop and grow. So it secretes the VEGF or FGF to make increases blood vessels to expression and movement to our tumor. So if we target the VEGF and FGF to inhibit the angiogenesis, we can make the nutrients and oxygen to not go to the tumors, so we can make the cancer cells die. These are the name of the example of angiogenesis inhibitors. And the last example is PARP, the poly-ADP ribose polymerase. Before I explain the PARP, we need to know about BRCA. The BRCA is substance that repairing error during the DNA replication. If we got a mutation of this BRCA, we cannot repair the error during the DNA replication, and we call this the ovarian cancer or pancreatic cancer, 다연수암 or 췌장암. And the PARP is also the protein that repair the DNA error. If we inhibit the PARP to the cells, which one who has already BRCA mutation, so we could not repair error. If we additionally inhibit the PARP, so we make the cells cannot repair the DNA error anymore. The DNA error be accumulated and the cancer cells killed because there's too many errors. The targeted cancer therapy is very targeted and has much more killing force than the chemotherapy. However, there's still many side effects of targeted cancer therapy. The first one is cancer cells got resistance during the cure, so we need to change the target. We need to keep to change the target and use very variety of target cells, and it can only be applied to cancer with specific targets. Therefore, there are some patients who cannot be used the targeted cancer therapy. And the third side effect is very expensive. It almost got 5천만 원 per year. So, and there's no insurance right now. There's no much more insurance right now. So it takes a very much cost for use the target cancer therapy. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Okay, any questions there? Very good question. Or any error you pick up from the slide or this presentation? Where? Molecular. That's a French word of molecular. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Okay, other? Okay, here. How could you treat this kind of cases? How can you treat? What kind of therapeutic agent you can give? If the protein is mutated, then how can you provide? What kind of drug can you provide? So BRCA or PARP, we call BRCA and PARP. If their proteins are as a problem, then what kind of drug do you need to provide? Okay, good answer. Okay, quite good summary and the good materials. Let's review quickly. Okay, small English tip. Difference between, if you use between, then it should be difference between chemotherapy and something, right? So if you use this, then you can change this. How can you change? Difference from, okay, so that will be smooth description. Okay, so rather than attacking the machinery itself, now you are killing their signals that targeted cancer therapy. And here there are two ways. So we can use either antibody. Next week we are going to talk about the immunotherapy. Immunotherapy means most likely we can use either antibody or antibody target or cell itself, but depending on those target, antibody also can be the second generation too, even first generation too, depending on how they work. In this case, interesting point here, there is some compound name, limitinib, or something blah blah MAP. MAP means monoclonal antibody. So if you see those drug name and as a MAP, okay, this is the antibody drug. Monoclonal antibody means isolated only one kind of antibody and it is used as a drug. That's MAP. And also NIV, kinase inhibitor. NIP is kinase inhibitor. So that's kind of the naming rule for those drugs when you can see. So depending on those the pathways, signaling pathways, signaling most likely signal to cancer is most likely divide quickly and ignore your neighbors, invade them, and just grow. That's the signal. And most likely their signal is coming from outside, and those are first messengers. And they cannot penetrate this membrane. If they can penetrate, some of them they like a steroid hormones. They can penetrate this, and then they can go directly to the nucleus and act as a transcription factor. Some materials they do that, but that's kind of one molecule go to the end and only one effect. Signal transduction, usually the ligand or first messenger bind to the surface, either receptor or some channel, and then it generate utilizing some enzymes on the inside and then generate the second messengers. And during those paths, usually signal is amplified. If there is a channel, same way, if you open the channel, then not only one of the ion can enter, it can be hundreds or thousands of ions can enter. So this can be amplification effect too. Okay. Now, if any of those drugs, if they just hijack those signaling, there are several targets. It can be block this. The first is the receptor. Or it can block any of those second messenger or second messenger generator. Or maybe third messenger and then the target here. Any of those protein or carbohydrate, those molecules it can be target. If the drug target those signaling pathway, the machineries, those are second generations. Antibody cannot penetrate the cell membrane, but antibody can block this receptor, like EGFR. If EGFR is blocked by this antibody, signal is blocked, right? So then, conceptually, this antibody is a second generation drug, not third generation, even though it is antibody. Okay? And any of those small molecules, if it goes, for example, let's say angiogenesis. Angiogenesis itself. Angio is the blood vessel. Genesis means generation. New blood vessel generation. This is not directly related to cancer problem, but cancer requires more nutrients to the site, so they include and enhance the new blood vessel generation. Blocking of this new blood generation itself is kind of a signaling blocking. So by attacking some of those receptor or ligand, then block it, then that's also second generation. And in this case, they showed some enzyme mutation. If the enzyme is mutated and they do some abnormal function, then killing those enzymes function can be also signaling blocking. It's different from attacking directly microtubule or DNA itself. Right? So in that sense, this is also second generation. So any kind of a signaling of the pathways, if they affect, then yes, it can be second generation. Extremely expensive. It's getting better. Some of them is now covered by insurance. Okay, those kind of a social environment is keep changing. So previously, yes, it was super expensive, but now some of them slowly released. But problem is, this cannot be applied to everybody. Only when the patient has that specific mutation to the specific target. And if there's any proved approved the drug available, then it can be covered by insurance. So still, we don't have enough different the anti-cancer drugs which can cover every indications like this. Maybe 20% or more. Hopefully, it can increase the further and further. There's no matching drugs available yet, but it's increasing. Okay. Okay. So with the variance, 통계점이. So this is the one of the example of signaling signal transduction. So first the messenger coming, and then I show you this picture, and then through the enzyme hydrolyze this and generate IP3 and second messenger mobilize the cation, so that in the sense this is third messenger, but this generates also diacetyl glycerol second messenger. So it's a little confusing, maybe the drawing is not clear. So I draw this way, so since like this is the second messenger, this is the third, why this is second messenger? You can ask. Sorry about it. Okay. If I draw this a little more compact form. First the receptor, and first the messenger bind here, and then activate other enzymes, G protein and phospholipase C enzyme, and then that hydrolyzes this substrate from the cell membrane, and then it generates IP3. Now it looks a little clearer. This machinery is kind of signal transduction, the enzymes and functional molecules. And we only generated small molecule is IP3, phosphate, which was really hot the topic 26 years ago. And it opened the whole field of biological signal transduction. And then that mobilized internally the cell cation, generate spike of cations. So cation imaging is becoming also very hot. Still, it's a very hot field right now. So these are second messenger, and this may be third messenger, kind of the definition. So inositol phosphate and calcium signaling is one kind of very important path. Another very important path is utilizing kinase. And then through this signal, and somehow that signal is transferred to kinase. And kinase function is a phosphorate. It's a substrate. It can be small molecule, or it can be another the protein. Those type of protein can be another kinase. Then those kinase is sometimes dimerized and get activated, and phosphorate is still another one. So kinase, MEP kinase is kind of a cascade. The pathway is also very complicated. Those kind of kinase connection network is also very important. The signal transduction. Usually, endpoint is this phosphorylation eventually make this transcription factor, and transcription factor bind to the promoter. So this is a gene part, this is DNA, and then if they activate this promoter, they make more mRNAs, make more oncogenic other proteins. So kinase seems like, so one of you picked up also some kinase as the target of the signaling of the pathways. There are many kinases. One of them is Janus. So two-phase Janus. So Janus kinase. So that kind of a kinase is very important. Kinase is also involved in cell cycle. So last week we started this cell cycle, starting from G0 going to the G1, and briefly we said when they collected all the materials, and there is a checkpoint. So next week we will hear another checkpoint, immune checkpoint. Now this is cell cycle checkpoint. This checkpoint means did I collect enough materials to start DNA synthesis? Kind of a checkpoint. Those checkpoints usually they are kinases, and those kinases are activated, then checkpoint is clear. That means this overactivation of kinases implies that cells goes for another cell division. So every checkpoint, before it enters S, that's important checkpoint, G1, S checkpoint. And DNA synthesis, you should not stop. Key point. After it's finished, then check again. It's ready to divide or not. That's a G2M checkpoint. There are many kinases are involved here. All of them are classified as CDK, cyclin dependent kinase. That means this kinase is involved in all of these cell cycle regulations. So those are also very important cancer targets, because if you block any of these enzymes, then they do not allow cell development. So it seems like there are many targets. They also mentioned that many classes of proteins, they can be signaling pathway targets. Kinase is one of those top candidates. There are maybe 500 to 600 kinases in our body. Out of 25,000 whole genes, kinases are quite big class of enzyme. And let's think, what is the function of kinase? In English, phosphorylation. Phosphorylation means there is a target. Okay, on this target, put the phosphate. Put the phosphate on the target. What is the enzyme of opposite effect? Remove phosphate. What do you call it? Dephosphorylation is the reaction. What is the enzyme for that? Phosphatase. Okay, phosphatase is the enzyme to remove it. So kinase is by putting phosphate. Phosphatase is to remove the phosphate. Those are opposite effects. Usually, phosphorylation induces activation. Dephosphorylation by phosphatase usually quench the signaling. Okay. Now, what kind of material do you think the kinase utilizes to add the phosphate to the target? You may know that. That's ATP. They utilize ATP. Okay. They utilize ATP, and this is alpha phosphate, beta phosphate, gamma phosphate, and they transfer this phosphate to the target. Okay. Let's say this is kinase, and this is ATP. This part, this blue head, this part is a gamma phosphate. Then this gun, they load ATP here, and they shoot, cleave here, because this is a high energy material, right? And cleave here and put this on the target, and the other ATP can be removed to reload another ATP. Okay. Now, if you want to design the kinase function blocker, kinase inhibitor, how can you do it? If this is the system, you have the gun, and you have the grid, and this is a regular function, and you don't want to let this gun shoot this target, transfer this ATP. ATP is gamma phosphate to the target. What can you do? Somehow you want to block the function of the gun. Okay? Then you can add maybe drug, maybe don't allow the reload of ATP, even though you didn't go to the army, you know the bullet is coming here, okay? Of course it can come here too, but anyway it enters here. So if you block that site, that means ATP binding site blocker. Okay? Then the enzyme cannot load ATP, then enzyme cannot function. Or you can block the end point, don't let it shoot, means don't let that bind to the substrate. Or somehow you block this part, don't let them initiate those reactions. So these are small molecule drugs, which can bind to the kinase, and somehow it blocks different functions. Okay? Maybe block the ATP entering, or changing of those the conformation to the active conformation, or prohibit those interaction with the substrate. So different ways of the small molecule function. This is the one way. And these are NIV, NIC, is the molecule like this. Antibody also can do, if antibody bind to this whole the kinase and don't let them work, then that's also a second generation drug. Okay. But can be other way. So this is small molecule or second generation common way of making kinase inhibitor. Any other possibility? Breaking kinase you said? How? 한마디만 더 해줘. Second possibility is, as we said, if we can break the kinase. If you can, then that's another way you can do it. 한마디만 더 보태줘. How can you break the kinase? Previous version is by adding small molecule, somehow block those functions of kinase. Right? Different binding sites may have different functions, but anyway, they break their function. But how can you physically break the kinase? Degradation. How? By ubiquitination. Sorry, 한마디만 더 보태줬으면 좋았을 텐데. Okay, what does that mean? Kinase is a protein. Okay, we generate the protein to do the function. Protein generation starting from DNA, make mRNA, and then make the proteins. Right? And once the protein function is done, or if we wanted to shut off that function, then we remove the protein. One way is if this protein we put, okay, this is recycled, destroyed. And that signal is what we call ubiquitin, small peptide. Yeah. Not only one ubiquitin, once ubiquitin is added, then multiple ubiquitins are labeled. If it is labeled, it's a recycling tag, then it is taken by slave cycle. So that means once any protein, if they have a multi-ubiquitin, it is recognized by proteasome. It's a big circle type of machine, grinder machine. Take out those ubiquitin and put those material inside there. Just grind it and break it up. Those machinery is called proteasome. Which machinery is making protein? Ribosome. Right? Ribosome is very big. Proteasome is a little smaller, but it's also quite big. It doesn't care what is the structure of that protein. It just check whether it is ubiquitinated or not. If it's ubiquitin tag there, then it just break it up. Okay. Then, if you can utilize this ubiquitination path essentially like ubiquitin is loaded, and essentially it's a multiple complex, and E3, E2 is loading ubiquitin, like ATP on kinase. Okay. And then here, E3, there are many kinds of E3. It's also hundreds of different E3. This E3 has recognition the motif to recognize those ubiquitin and partially those substrate too. That means it's not only ubiquitin, a little the influence for those shape of those target too. So now, only if this target is close enough to this E3, then this E2 can transfer this ubiquitin to the target. To reduce it, if you add this kind of material, one bind to this, one bind to this, then they can be come together. Then it can be ubiquitin. If the target is a kinase, if there is a kinase, if that is happen, then this recruit this target to the E3 and they come close, and then E2 put those ubiquitin on the target and multiply, and then this can be liberated. And this material can be released and then recycled to add another one. So kinase inhibitor, previous version, one molecule, if it blocks kinase, then it should not move, it should stay there. Right? If it's moved out, then kinase can be reactivated. In this case, it binds here, let them break down, and then this is released, and it can be recycled to attack another type. Right? Then, what do you need? In this case, if your target is a kinase, one side is a kinase binder. It doesn't need to be active site binder, binding any place of the kinase. Okay. And the other side is E3 binder. Then this part is binded to E3, and this part binded to kinase. Then you just connect them by linker. This approach we call name-wise, proteolysis targeting chimera. So chimera you will hear next week too. And chimera means it's a mixed information. In chimera, it's not 2N DNA information. In chimera, it has maybe 4N, right? So some part is patient A, some part is patient B, kind of a mixture. So that's kind of a chimera. So proteolysis inducing chimera is this. That chimera is partially, one side is your target, the other side is easily binded. Then you can choose any target if you have a binder. Then you can physically degrade them. So that's one way. What can be third way? There's a kinase, you add a small molecule and block the function. That's one way. Second way, break down the machine. Okay? So that product was proposed about 30 years ago. At the moment, it is an academically interesting idea, but the problem is, this is the size of molecule. This is a small molecule, 500 molecular weight. This is a small molecule, 400 molecular weight. Link size of 100. If you combine it together, what molecular weight? It's 1,000. It's not small molecule anymore. So then, by the Lipinski rule, this kind of molecule can be delivered to the target cell or not. That's the question. So there was kind of the hesitation or skeptical view for this approach, but they tried to make this smaller and smaller, closer and closer, even fuse the molecule. Now they call it molecular glue. It's connecting two molecules together. Then this size becomes like a small molecule. And currently, maybe more than half of the small molecule developers, they utilize this proton technique. So that means you need to know that's a very hot topic for small molecule development. Now, third method. One is blocking the function. There's a breaking the machine. What can be the third way? Blocking the kinase synthesis. Don't let it make. How? Then we can think protein is made by mRNA. mRNA is made by DNA, right? If you hijack those signaling, mRNA attack or DNA attack, then they cannot make this kinase. How can you do it? 뭐라고? 다시. 야, 이제 나눠줘야지. Okay, one way is to blocking this mRNA. One way is the antisense idea. Antisense means we have briefly discussed that before. If it has a complementary sequence to this mRNA, and this one is small enough, and we can enter the cell, then bind to mRNA sequence. Then this mRNA has a partially double-stranded area. Then it cannot be processed by ribosome. And then the mRNA cannot be deployed. There is the idea of antisense RNA. And even this kind of a double-strand RNA is not common in our body. That's why if there exists that kind of a double-strand RNA, the cell recognizes this as kind of invasion by double-strand RNA virus. And the enzyme is break. So RNA is H and break this whole RNA. The mRNA, and it cannot make it. Very early stage of the new century, discovery of siRNA. By experiment, as I said, any of those virus material come in, then our body has to process it. And double-strand RNA comes in, then there is a protein so-called risk. They recognize this and dissociate. And they keep randomly one of those strands inside here. And at the moment, the experimentalists, they try to do some experiment, antisense experiment. And one cell, they added the antisense, the other one, sense for the woman. Sense is a control experiment. Sense cannot bind to the mRNA, it should not do anything. But by doing the experiment, they found that by adding to the sense, it showed much better inhibition effect. and it was not reproduced. But later when they checked, they realized that they, by mistake, they added antisense and sense together into the same experiment of the double-strand RNA they added. Then the effect was much stronger. That was a discovery story of siRNA, double-strand RNA. So by siRNA, if you add this antisense and not single strand, if you add sense and antisense together, they entry, then risk can separate them, and efficiently this risk recognize the mRNA and let them bind, and clip over here, and regenerate this double strand, and recycle it. And this degrading efficiency is much better than antisense. And that was discovered about 2003 or something. Within 3 years, it got Nobel Prize. At the moment, there was the hottest, the tool in biology. And the tool function was so powerful, killing those signals of making new protein. By adding siRNA, you can remove those synthesis, making platform. It's practically possible if you inject siRNA into the patient, circulate, and recognize the mRNA, don't let make the target protein. That's quite ideal was quite unique and interesting idea. So that is very common tool right now. If you hear siRNA, already we mentioned several times. If you hear siRNA, the effect is what we call knock down, because it does not affect DNA. It affects temporary formation of RNA. Right? So that's not done effect. Okay, very similar to siRNA. There's another this similar size of 22, about 22 the nucleotide long microRNA. Altogether, siRNA, microRNA, altogether they call RNAi, RNA interference. And 2 kinds. siRNA is usually synthetic dimer, synthetic of the double helix, and goes in and recognizes those in the middle of RNA and let it break. This is usually synthetic. MicroRNA is opposite way. It's existing in our body. Our genome makes only 2% of the DNA make protein. The other half of them, they make RNA, but we don't know their function. The other half, if even they do not make the RNA. And those RNA, what's their function? It's kind of the big question for now. Some of them seems like when the RNA is digested to make mature RNA, and here, this is a coding area. There's some area in this part, 5' region, and 3' region, and 3' region has a 48 tail. This is usually mature RNA structure. MicroRNA also have the binding site, but usually they bind not on the coding area. Usually they bind here or here. In many cases, they control those expression activities. So we have hundreds of microRNA, and they can bind to this area a little loosely. Means it does not need to be exactly match the sequence. That means one microRNA can bind to hundreds of promoters. So this is another molecular level of regulating those amount of protein synthesis. So this one is a topic of biology seriously, but it's a little difficult to target specifically back because there's many targets. So in comparison, maybe siRNA is a little easier. If you design that, then you can most likely kill the production of a protein for one target. Okay, 3 ways. Protein is already there, blocking their function, or breaking by proton, or don't let them make. There may be a little delay. You need to wait until all the existing protein is degraded. But if you block the new synthesis and they do not make more, maybe after 1 day they do not do that much. All of them can be applied to second generation. Okay, so let's study one more. Maybe you have heard of this CRISPR. What is the role of CRISPR? What do you know about CRISPR? What is CRISPR? Knock out, she said. Okay. Usually CRISPR we heard the gene editing tool. How was it discovered? in bacteria, in some of those bacteria, they found very interesting repeating sequence. And then there is some unique sequence in between. And they realized by looking at this, these unique sequences are some virus sequences. And then they assume or they speculate maybe this is kind of bacteria's immune system. Our immune system, we can have many kinds of different antigens. We make antibodies. Antibodies by combinatorial chemistry, we make a different binding paratope. And this paratope binds to epitope. That's our defense system. Bacteria and viruses, they compete with each other too. Usually virus wins, maybe 99%. And bacteria, sometimes they survive the virus attack. And if they survive, they cut small piece of a viral gene and they keep it. Okay, this was a bad guy. Last year, they invaded our friends. If you come again, then now I will give you my revenge. Kind of a system. And actually that worked that way. And it seems like there is some machinery, Cas9 enzyme, which can recognize this part and bind to this. And the other sequence, if that binds to this unique virus sequence they are matching, it's a double helical RNA structure or DNA structure, then they can cut that indicator. So any virus invade into the body, then this is recruiting Cas9 enzyme, this is viral enzyme, then they recognize this part and then clear that site. So that was discovered, first discovered as a bacteria's immune system, but we realized that if we can utilize this, any sequence we have instead of a virus, that means same sequence we can recognize onto DNA and we can cut it very swiftly. So that idea was realized, and all of a sudden gene editing became super easy. All you need is this sequence of Cas9, the recruiting sequence, and then target gene sequence, and then matching here. And to make it even simpler, this all together, this is called as guide RNA, and even this was connected together into the single chain, then single guide RNA. So that means you introduce Cas9 to the cell. Cas9 is a bacterial protein, so we don't have that. Cas9 is added there, and this sequence is a known sequence up to here, and this is your target sequence you can design. Then all you need is you just add this RNA sequence, not very long, chemically synthesize it. You study your target gene, and then you recognize, okay, this part I want to target and cleave. And connect this into here, then you add RNA, and you add Cas9, then that cleave this gene on your DNA. Very efficient. It cleaves the DNA, that's what this is about. That means all you need to know is the DNA sequence of the type. If you know that your kinase target, then you recognize those original gene, and then active site, and introduce this gene, then it is knocked out. It does not make the RNA permanently, because your DNA is modified. Your gene is changed. So that is a gene knockout. A little different version is possible. Original cutting enzyme name as Cas9. And then you can, by changing those sequences, you can deactivate those functions. So deactivate the Cas9. Then this Cas9 protein enzyme can bind, but it cannot cleave. So it just stays there. Then, if this sequence is your promoter sequence, and you can add here transcription activator, then it can promote those gene synthesis. Practically, this is not on. It is making more protein. It can be very useful biochemical tool too. You target your target gene. Maybe it is a tumor suppressor gene, and you add this, then they make more tumor suppressor. You can do exactly the same thing by adding suppressor. Okay, this is your kinase. Overexpress the kinase. You want to reduce the function. then dcas9 added. And this sequence allows their access to this gene. And then this suppressor block the transcription of that target. Quite fancy. So that's why based on this is a summary of the 3 techniques. Original Cas9, it has binding and cleavage. And CRISPR-I is a blocking. CRISPR-A is activating it more. Knock down, knock up, knock out. Now the several of the companies, of course, this got the Nobel Prize a couple of years ago, and each of those Nobel Prize the winners, they made separate companies, and then they are trying to develop drugs based on this right now. This is also a very hot topic in biology, but very closely connected to drug development, and good to know. That's why I decided to do this video. Okay, some questions? Citric acid cycle, this is entry into pyruvate. Next step to move to oxidative phosphorylation. If that blocks, then why it's helping humans? Maybe the other member showed that answer. So if that pathway is somehow suppressed, and then to the compensated, tumor try to make different pathways, and if that pathway is blocked, then tumor is much more stressed compared to the normal cells. This is one of the effect to reject. So any pathways the tumor prefers to use, which is not commonly used in normal cells. If that pathway is blocked, then we can expect maybe lower side effect, only kill the tumors. So utilizing Warburg effect is also utilizing specific signaling pathways, right? So that's why it can be a good example of metastatic cell in blood vessels. Metastatic means tumor is formed in one site, and then they break out their boundary, so they become malignant. And some of them is enter into the bloodstream and travel around to go to different places. So 2 stages usually they say. Tumor is if they reside in one position, epithelial, epithelial. If they becomes to movable shape, mesenchymal. So mesenchymal shape is like a pack everything and ready to move. They become sharper and penetrate better into the blood vessel. So those are 2 stages looks like quite different. One is attached to groin on one side, and then they pick it up and then movable, sharp and shallow shape, and then penetrate into the blood vessel, move to a different side, and they resettle and they become again. So this transition they call EMP, epithelial to mesenchymal EMT, epithelial to mesenchymal transition, or MEP. MET, once they are stabilized in one position, they become again epithelial cells. Okay. They change their shape and mobility. So mesenchymal is more mobile, more easier to penetrate and move. Everything is possible. Okay, so we are here right now. Today, so we handled this targeted cancer therapy. Next week is the immunotherapy or third generation. Originally, I invited only one person, and then I realized actually the topic is a little far, broad. So here, at least, immune checkpoint. This is one important topic. ADC, antibody drug conjugate, and CAR T. Chimeric antigen receptor T cells. This is cell therapy. Seems like it's difficult for one person to cover them all. I want to invite tumor as a presenter. So for Taeyun, where is it? Okay, you can choose one of them first because you are the first volunteer. You think about it and put your selection onto our the hackathon. Okay. Then you can apply for the other 2 topics. immune checkpoint, antibody drug conjugate, and CAR T. So as we have 3 presenters, the presentation should be less than about 5 minutes. It cannot be too long. Okay? So we will wait until Taeyeon's input first. And once Taeyeon select one, then it's open to everybody. You can select the video type. Okay? You chose CAR T, okay? Taeyeon go to CAR T. Any volunteer now? Antibody drug conjugation, immune checkpoint. Think about it, and you can be volunteers through the Kakao. Other of your friends need to know who you have to reach. Okay. I will give you time until Thursday. If I don't hear you, then I will approach you. Okay? Any questions for today? Okay, see you next week.